This is the PR Podcast, a show about how public relations helps you tell your story to the world. We talk with great PR practitioners who have the skills, creativity, and just plain savvy to get their clients noticed. Now here's your host, Jody Fisher.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the PR Podcast. I'm Jody Fisher. Thanks for joining us. Well, don't forget to join my Instagram Live on Thursday nights at 8:45 Eastern. Now, I know that's an odd time, but that's because that's the time when I'm done driving my kids back and forth to school, and they've got baseball, and they've got music, and they've got jazz band and all that kind of stuff. And so 8:45, I'm clear. And it's 15 minutes before I go to bed. So join me there. It's on my personal Instagram handle. That's at Jody Fisher. And it's actually a Jody Fisher underscore because I couldn't get Jody Fisher. I should check that and see if it's available now. Maybe I'll jump on that. In any case, at Jody Fisher on Instagram, Thursday night, 8:45. We talk PR. We talk about what's been going on during the week. We play a game called Why Is That News, where I decipher or I take a look at a newspaper story that caught my eye, and I imagine what it would take for the PR person to pitch that story. And we kind of cut it apart and see why it made the paper. But it's a 15-minute chat, all things PR, live here from the PR Garage. Join me on Instagram Thursday nights at 8:45. Now on with our show for today. We got a great guest. Ben Brugler is the CEO and president of Akhia, an agency focused on supporting manufacturers in both the B2B and B2C industries. He's been in the industry for 25 years, with 24 of those spent at Akhia, as he worked his way up from an entry-level account coordinator to his current role as CEO. Ben is also the primary owner of Akhia, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. Ben, welcome to the PR Podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Akhia, what you guys do, and the clients that you serve.
Yeah, so we're pushing 30 years in the industry, and we started as a true pure PR agency, and a lot of the focus on messaging and understanding our clients' business with at the center of the mission is of our company is really just focusing on our clients, client service, and really helping them grow. So I mentioned that because we took that and really used that to grow the business over the next 20 years in the B2B space, largely in the B2B space, and realized as we hit a certain point that most of our business, most of our clients were in the manufacturing space, and some of those were B2B, some of those were B2C. We have a very large number of brands in the B2C space, and realized that it made a lot of sense for us to really be focusing and niching into the manufacturing industry. Now, if you were a client of ours, you weren't surprised by that at all. You were like, what's the big deal? What's the big news when we made this push about 2 years ago? But what it did for us is really helped us to focus into a space that I think is growing quite a bit, but is also really hungry for the right type of support when it comes to communications from a skill standpoint, but also really values the importance of the relationship and the human side that we bring to the business with our clients, which is, yeah, we may be coming in as a marketing partner, but we're coming in and really our expectation is as a business partner. We kind of take a look at everything we're doing should be driving the business. We don't believe in living in a marketing silo or, not crossing over into these areas if it can help grow or drive the business. So that's an area that we've really been focusing on, and manufacturers seem to really respond to that because, they're very solutions oriented. That's how they want to work, and that's how we like to work.
That's great. And let's touch on the differences between the B2B and B2C approach to public relations and marketing and comms support, because it is very different. And for those who may not have worked on one side or the other, let's just sort of level set that B2B versus B2C.
Yeah, absolutely. I love both. I have experience in both. I like to. It's interesting. So when we talk to our B2B clients. And I'll just give you a quick story. When I was starting at Akhia, I was always interested because our B2B clients wanted to know what our B2C clients were doing from an advertising standpoint or a messaging standpoint. They're like, oh, they're so lucky. They get to have fun with their marketing and fun with their campaigns and how they get to position things. And I'm like, guys, we can have fun too. We're marketers. We should be having fun. And I think that our B2B clients like that when you can bring some fun and bring some creativity and some different thinking that they view as, maybe more in that consumer channel. It's like, well, at the end of the day, everybody's a consumer. They're going home and they're consuming something. So can we tap into that? On the B2C side, what I think is really a differentiator, and this isn't to talk about us as much as it just is the message, is, because there is so much in the creative space, and that's kind of the table stakes. We're able to bring something that B2C clients really are envious of in the B2B space, and that is, well, can we just focus on the facts? Can we focus on what it is that we're actually trying to communicate? It's like, oh, your B2B clients, they have it easy. They just get to tell, all people care about is exactly what it is that they're supporting. I'm like, well, we can do that too. We can do it a little bit in more of a creative way, but at the end of the day, people want to know why it is that they're buying what they're buying. So I always look at it as like, I don't know, there is the difference in the channels, but I like to look at it as there's a difference in the channels in terms of who you're talking to and how you're approaching it. But the core and really the reality of the pure PR approach and the messaging approach shouldn't change. We still know who our audience is. We're trying to come up with ways to get to them directly, and really trying to get to a way that changes or affects behavior.
Yeah, it's so true, and great to hear you explain it in that way, that it's still all about tapping into the reporter and the audience that they serve, or the outlet and the audience that they serve, regardless of whether it's B2B, B2C, whatever audience that they're serving.
Yeah.
But it is funny to also hear you tell a story about, well, hey, how come we can't do, and how come, right?
Yeah.
Are there some fun campaigns? You mentioned some fun campaigns. Are there some fun or unusual things that sort of stick out in your brain about, hey, here's something we did that was just sort of a little bit different and it worked. It worked well.
Yeah, I think so. It was an interesting time in our agency when we started to really move our clients into it kind of into our B2B clients into kind of that B2C mentality. And we had a client we've had for a long time. So granted, the trust was there, but we were really focused on, and you see this now more in general on like LinkedIn. It's like, what if Nike, excuse me, what if Nike advertised as a B2B brand? And they try to show like how B2B would be boring. It's like, well, not boring. We did the same thing. So one of our clients, we were actually talking to them about their manufacturing components, and I won't bore you with all the specifics. I'm the guy that usually goes to the party and likes to hear the things that other people think are boring. I'm like, no, hit me with all that stuff. I love to hear how things are made. But we kind of took this idea of, it was what I would consider to be a pretty complex product, and looking at it from a sense of, we had a B2C client that had just run, at the time, this is probably mid 2010s, where infographics were starting to take over as really becoming the preferred method of choice, as like how we were communicating, and you were starting to see a lot more of those in press kits even. And so we had just done one, we had done some infographics and some listicles for our former client, and that was in the consumer space. And we said, well, what if we took this and turned this really complex product into something that was an infographic, and challenging our client to basically take these, pulling out all the really specific things that they would consider to be that complex piece, and said, we have to put it all back in now, but we have to take it in the form of an infographic. So some things are going to get left on the cutting room floor here, but we have to really focus that. Well, it wasn't just the infographic that came up. The next thing we knew we were doing is we were starting to do we were doing listicles for B2B clients, right? Which at the time was not as much of a traditional approach. You see it a lot more now. Starting to take the infographics that people were seeing, like in the USA Today, like the small infographic pieces, and starting to do those to put in press kits or to put on our LinkedIn pages. And it was really starting to turn the attention of our B2B clients. And we started to show that to some of our other clients in that space. And they're like, well, how did you do that? How did you get approval to do that? How were you allowed to do that? And it's like, the message isn't changing, the story isn't changing. We're still going after the same people and the same interests that we were before, but now we're making it much more consumable. And all of a sudden, that just kind of caught fire in our agency, in the sense of, how do we take this very complex material and make it a lot more consumable or snackable, which are terms that are overused now, I know. But at the time, really taking that complex info, or taking that material that I think a lot of people felt they had to have this long runway to understand, and just making it a lot more easier to digest and process, was really starting to move the needle for our clients. So it was starting to come to us from also at a time when content was such a big driver of like, how do you take that content and make it work for you? And we were looking for all of these very consumable, consumer focused ways to start positioning and presenting B2B information.
Thank goodness for the clients who let you experiment with what they're doing, right? Because it
Yeah.
lets you push that envelope, and it really puts them on the cutting edge of trying something new. Because so I feel like so many clients, I'm not banging on anybody, but you know this too. So many
Yeah.
clients just want to retreat to the safe space, right? Just get us the thing that we know what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna come out, and that we're gonna be happy with it. When in fact, the stuff that really shakes up anything is the stuff that lives on the edge, right?
Yeah. It was funny that you mentioned this. I was with a client just this week, and he made a big deal because I made a big deal out of him. He's like, you keep saying that I took a chance or I did something different. And I was like, well, you did, and you have a history of taking a chance on these things. Most recently, and you were talking about a second ago, taking these consumable ideas and starting to open up like very maybe what would be traditional manufacturing methods of communicating. What we're seeing now is on internal communications. So we have a lot of our clients that are talking to a lot of different groups of employees, whether it's a leadership team or a steering committee, and they're having challenges in terms of how they're communicating with them at a very basic level because there's so much to communicate now. Well, this same client that I was mentioning a little bit ago trusted us again to take this very different, very non-traditional approach to internal communications for strategic planning, where we were focused, instead of taking a business plan, instead of working with the team on a business plan, we said, and this was right around the start of the football season, we said, what if we turn this into a playbook approach? What if we actually wrote a playbook for our business plan and we football themed it and we had a lot of fun with it and we got everybody involved and we had offensive teams and defensive lines and strength and conditioning coordinators, but we tied it all to very specific business areas. And this client was like, yeah, we're going to do that. And I was like, you don't understand. Not every client is willing to take a chance where we can, because he has to go to his leadership team and take a chance. Instead of presenting, 5 slides of a business strategy, is now presenting this very visual driven, consumable based playbook. Still has the numbers in it. It still has all the critical pieces in it, but is a lot more actionable and engaging for the internal team. And all of a sudden you hear people, it's coming up in more meetings, it's coming up in emails. It's like, yeah, just like we said in the playbook. And we're running the plays in it as part of the strategies and tactics for the program. So I'm like, marketing should be fun. Of course, marketing's fun. And that, like, I feel like I've been saying that for 25 years, but it's like, I love this job. I love what we can do. I love when clients trust us to do it. Then, of course, I even love it even more when it works.
Yeah. For sure. That's a great story to hear. I loved hearing that story and love hearing how you sort of converted, right, the clients and converted the people to start seeing this as not only something that's working for them, but something that they have invested in, that they can invest in, that has value to them in terms of what's driving what they do.
Yeah.
Because that's
And
that. I mean,
you
that
dig
that I
this the
think is a big
most.
misunderstand about our industry is that we're out there just getting publicity for people, and it's the publicity is what is the driver behind your business, the why you get up in the morning, right?
Right. And your background, you dig this the most is, it's when a client tells you that they don't mind either you using it for a case study or giving you a quote, you've done a good job because usually, as we always know, it's like leading manufacturer of XYZ and you can't mention the names. It's like, no, that's a good one. Let's turn that into a case. Maybe we can win an award with it. And I'm like, hey, you kind of have checked a few boxes when they're talking like that. So it's like, yeah, and I could care if it wins an award, and I want to turn everything we do into a case study because I love it. But if they're seeing the potential in it, like you said, we're not just, it doesn't have to be so formulaic. We can take different approaches to open and challenge the thinking. And I kind of think that's what our job is anyway. We should be pushing our clients. Like, if part of the reason they're hiring us, yes, is to do a job. But part of the reason they're hiring us is to maybe think about it or doing it differently and bringing new ways of doing it. And I think that's the hardest and probably most rewarding at the same time part of this job, as I'm sure you can attest to.
Absolutely. And speaking of new ways to do your job, we're all grappling with AI, with artificial intelligence, and sort of what we do with it, how we use it, how it's in our business. And I think we're all familiar with, the Chat GPT model, the hey, let's put something in and get it a first draft of our press release, which I got to imagine we all do at this point. But
It's
you've got
becoming
some.
quite common.
Yeah, but you've got some sort of best ways to use AI you wanted to talk about here. How have you seen AI work in a practical way for what you do for your clients?
So I'm gonna tell you a quick story, and the reason I say this is because my I do an AI roundup that goes out every week, and I send it on Friday, and people are like, how do you write this? Because I'm basically it's an aggregate newsletter where I go through and track stories, and it's intense. It's an intense 2 hours, as you're going through all the stories that you've pinned from the week to go in because it is heavy. It's a heavy thing right now for us, especially in this industry, to understand. And I think when we first started out, we jumped in right at the start, and we didn't want to be afraid of it. And I thought it was really important for the agency to see us as a leadership team not being afraid of it. I think it was important for our clients to know we could talk to them about it. We weren't afraid of it. They knew we were there, understanding it when they were ready. But in today's newsletter, I wrote about, we've kind of hit this point, we've hit the guru stage, and you probably remember this as much as I do. It's like when social media kind of hit that spike where all of a sudden we had gurus and ninjas and Jedis and all kinds of social media titles to show that like they understood it. Well, now that we're 2.5 years into this, it's starting to become more common that people are doing the same thing with AI, and they're commoditizing it in some ways where it's like we can write this press release and do this and do this and do this. And I'm really proud of the agency's willingness to accept kind of what we set out in the beginning was not trying to use AI as a replacement. It's not an easy button, but to use AI as an enhancement and or an accelerant. Someone who I really respect came from the VC space said, AI is going to make mediocre people good people great, great people mercenaries. And I appreciated and respected the directness of that statement. And I said, we have to be the ones that go, take that huge step. We have to be the ones like trust our skill set in terms of content and in terms of how we work with clients. So to answer your question, the way we started to shape how we use AI internally was working at it from a couple of different fundamental PR ways. One from a crisis standpoint or a messaging standpoint or a sales standpoint, you can build profiles, you can build personas pretty easily within the different LLMs, the large language models that are out there. You can build those personas and start to scenario or pressure test your messaging. You can look for gaps. You can look for, hey, if we were to say this, what would an audience say? If we were to take this approach, how would that resonate? And it's not an exact science, but it gives you a starting point that if you can go to a client and say, here's this message, we did some testing, we think here are a couple of gaps. Of these three gaps, these two really rate high, and we want your help in how we can plug those gaps to really make sure our messaging's tight. So using AI as an enhancement but also an accelerant in that case and how you can work with clients to kind of get ahead of the curve and save them time. Their time is becoming far greater in terms of having to be spread out over so many things that if we can help them, we want to. With time management, we want to. The second thing and how we've been using it is from a research tool. And I think most PR people would see the benefit of using this for research. And the research options that are out there right now, both through ChatGPT and Gemini, are just they're mind blowing to watch it and to get all this information so quickly. And what we're able to do is speed the timeline up for our clients. And you got to remember, especially in the manufacturing space, if we're trying to determine pivot quickly because, oh, I don't know, maybe tariffs are asking us to maybe shift direction or shift course, and we're looking at a different market for our clients that, hey, maybe this market's been frozen and we want to help them go here. We could start to do some quick research that we can take in for the whole organization, not just for marketing. We can call a meeting with our clients for product and R&D and the lab team and the sales team and start to present this information and brainstorm as a whole into this new category that before we would have had to commission and maybe take 2 months worth of research to do. We're able to move a lot faster. So I think bringing the speed and the enhanced skill set into it should benefit any PR agency or any marketing agency. That's how really we've used it. Those are two ways I could go on, but I know we're like, 20-minute show, but I don't want to take up so much time with it. But it's a way that I think our clients have seen we make them comfortable with it. We're not using it to write material that they're paying us to do. We're using it in a way that is taking what we're doing and delivering so much more value on top of what we're being asked to do and do it faster in a day and age when I think time is probably becoming the real challenge anymore.
Yeah, time is definitely the most expensive commodity, I would think, in anything that we do. But really interesting to hear you tell the story about how you have been unafraid to experiment with AI, not just use it for the face value thing that you think it can do, which is, baseline for all of us is writing, but actually using it for research, for using it for what sounds to me like, a mini focus group almost,
Yeah.
and really push the boundaries of what it is, but applying it in a really practical way to the needs of your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, and I think this is where most PR people would be coming from, or most communicators would be coming from, is nobody wants to use it to replace what we do. Like nobody wants to be like, we shouldn't be using it to do the things we can do. We should be using it to do the things we can't do. And we just saw something like this. One of our creative directors wrote a blog about, he's a writer by trade, and he you would not expect him to be the one that is auditing the image gen tools that are out there right now. You would think that our design team would be doing that. But his point was, you have me, a writer, showing how I can bring to life what's in my head visually a lot faster to support concepting, to support ideation, to accelerate with our clients ways that we can think. And we're not the agency that, and this isn't to get into the ethics of it, but we're not the agency that's going to pass that off as our work. In our decks, we're disclosing where we've used it. It's in our statement of works. We disclose recording and transcription in our team's messages and in our calendars. If we use it, and we're on an enterprise license, so our data is protected, and our clients know that we have it. But when we use it, we disclose it. Now, we don't use it as a swap for writing or something like that. It's mostly in the ways that I've been talking about it. And we like to let people know, it's like, if we build that focus group or we're doing that research, my expectation, given the experience we have with our clients, is if they trust us to get the right information out for them to help them do those things that we said earlier, saving time, maybe fending off some worst case scenarios before they become a worst case scenario, and bringing value to a lot more in the organization than just the marketing team.
Speaking of that, are there things that you've done with AI or ideas that you've brought to the clients that maybe you've used AI to help produce that have sort of not been what you expected? I don't want to say they were failures or mistakes, but just they didn't hit the nail on the head, or they weren't the thing you thought they were going to be. And how did you take that knowledge and adapt for when you went back the next time?
So let me think about that. I don't know if there's been a case where it hasn't worked or it hasn't delivered in terms of the thinking. I think where we've seen it, and now granted, we've been involved pretty much from the start in terms of testing the tools and knowing the different, why use this for this versus that for that. I think where we have run into roadblocks is limitations of the tool in the moment. And I'll give you a really good example. So um, you think about right now, if you have a client that you're doing, let's say, LinkedIn images for, or you're doing LinkedIn ads for, and they want to make a quick fix or a quick change or an edit. There are some tools that can help you do that edit a lot faster and better. Adobe's one of them. And we, again, have disclosed to a client recently when we were using Adobe Image Gen to enhance an ad. It worked for that. when we were trying to use it to enhance or modify an image for a manufacturing client to create like a manufacturing scenario, it can't really get the manufacturing type images just yet, because to do that, you would have to see other examples, and that's proprietary info, or you would have to know just how specific. It's a lot different than saying make me a coffee cup versus make me a XYZ, piece of machinery. So that's where we've seen some limitations. Now, on the flip side of that, taking the image gen tools or taking some of the AI tools that we have in concepting with maybe a generic image, but selling in the idea of like, do you like this for a quick change to a LinkedIn ad, or do you like this that we can create a quick set of carousel images in Canva? If they do like that, we can customize it with our design team and still have saved time, because we're not concepting in real time. We're actually giving them something to react to. And then the time that goes into making it, it's become a lot shorter. So we're able to optimize a lot of our clients' time just by that.
Great examples there. So what's coming next? How are you using AI to continue to push the boundaries of what you do for your clients?
Well, I'm I'm a little I'm a little anxious and jealous of these industries and these companies that have the agentic AI coming. And I just wrote about this morning that Adobe has agentic AI that they're introducing and the types of things that they could be using. So I think our designers will actually have access to some of the agent tools a lot faster than we will. But it really is in that agentic space in terms of what it can do. I will tell you, and not to get off the beaten path here, but um, a real challenge right now is in how AI is attacking um, our clients' not just our clients, but websites in general, because they're crawling those sites to get trained, or somebody's sending an AI agent into their site to collect information for what the task it is that they're doing. So when you say like what's next or what could we be looking at, I think we have to learn to work and live within agentic AI, both in the sense that we're going to work with it. I don't know if you saw um, it was Shopify. Their CEO came out earlier this week and said they're not going to hire anybody new unless you can prove AI can't do the task. So they're basically force feeding AI into the workforce. Not only that, but they're putting it in a way that they're saying it will become part of your performance review. If you're not using AI, it could reflect negatively in that review. So it's the first organization that I'm seeing that's forcing the hand in having human workers work alongside agents. So I think we have to understand that dynamic, but also I think we have to understand how AI agents are going and going to be basically eating alive the search side of our business. And clients thrive on that, creators thrive on that in terms of who's going to their space. Well, there's a lot of ways out there right now that you can start to look at how you can enhance your site for optimization with AI versus search engine optimization, and the things that you should be doing real basic in terms of even how you describe images that are on the page, or the very simple ways that you approach and talk about a video that's on the page, because an AI can't see those things versus reading the text to describe it. That's changing completely. Like you and I coming up in the business and learning like this very, the peso model in terms of how we approach PR in communications, that's completely disrupting that now. That's disrupting the, half of that model that we now have to go back and completely think about how we write, how we position, how we frame everything that we're doing into digital space. I think it's going to be a pretty stressful period for the digital and content folks within the agency world, because that's a whole new element and wrinkle that we're going to have to really be paying attention to.
Well, we will watch for your predictions and watch for how you guys are using it. And yeah, it's something that I think is changing every day. And a year from now, it'll look completely different.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's not, and I could talk AI all day. I tell people, I'm like, be careful, because we could go on and on. And I am never shy of promoting. I'm from Northeast Ohio. We have the Marketing AI Institute in our backyard. Paul Raitzer and that team does a fantastic job in keeping that industry up to date. But keeping our industry up to date. But there are so many things in terms of the human side. And I guess if I were to close the loop on the AI conversation, it's really important for us to remember we are the communicators. We have to think about the human side of how our clients are dealing with AI, in terms of something doing their task or working with them in their task, but also in how our clients are adjusting to this new technology that could come in and disrupt their business. And we all know there's plenty of things to disrupt our clients' business right now. AI just happens to be a big one. It's never been more important for us to have that human aspect, to have that relationship that we all value so much in this business, because the only way you're going to be able to continue to guide them and bring that value is to have that trust. And that's our job, is to stay on top of what's going on in the industry so we can be there for them and help counsel them as this technology continues to impact and disrupt our clients' business.
Well, Ben, we'll watch to see what you and Akhia do. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it. We are not done with you yet, however. We're going to segue now into the rapid fire question portion of our podcast. This is where we steal a page from inside the actor's studio. We ask our guests a series of rapid fire questions meant to elicit a simple answer, maybe a laugh or two. With your indulgence, Ben Brugler, let's begin with rapid fire question number one. What is your favorite news source?
Wall Street Journal.
Love it. Rapid fire question number two. What's your favorite social media platform?
None of them.
That is a great answer.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, right? It's funny. I don't think of LinkedIn as a social media platform. I kind of put it in a category off by itself because I don't use it in the same way that I, share pictures or videos or information on any of the other platforms.
Yeah. Well, and I know it's rapid fire. Can I tell you a quick story? And you can cut it if you need to.
Go for it.
So you're going to appreciate the world we were in when Twitter came out. If this was 5 years ago, I said Twitter. I was a Twitter nut. I love Twitter. One of the first people on it. And people were always like, I remember you telling me to get on Twitter. Yeah, I used to tell our clients to get on Twitter. You know how hard it was? And they would sit there and be like, you want me to go into my boss's office and tell them to get on Twitter? Like, I can't even say that with a straight face. I'm like, look, I didn't name it. It's not my fault. It's called Twitter. You're going to want to pay attention to this. And so if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would say Twitter. It's so toxic now. It's really rough. I loved everything about it in the early days.
Yeah, I'm full agreement. Nothing to add. Rapid fire question number three, Ben. Coffee or alcohol?
Coffee.
Anything in the coffee or black?
It's just black. Yeah. And I feel like I always say it really strict too. Like, should we leave room for cream or sugar? And I'm like, no.
Yeah, why would we do that?
Why?
That's called dessert.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Rapid fire question number four. What's your favorite on the run food?
I granola bars.
Good stuff. Rapid fire question number five. What do you want to be after you finish this career?
A mentor. I think that this industry is hard and it's rewarding though. And so I would hate to see the right person get worn down or leave it earlier than they should. And if I wouldn't have had people helping me, I would never have left it. I love it too much, but I would have got discouraged. So I hope to give back in that regard and mentor people in this industry.
I think it's all part of our responsibility and obligation. Ben, this has been a great conversation. Please let people know how they can find you and Akhia online.
Easiest way, Akhia.com and everything. I have 2 newsletters that are on there. The Ben Thinking newsletter. It's also through LinkedIn, and the AI Roundup I mentioned earlier that goes out every week, and you can subscribe to both of those on Akhia.com.
Sounds good. We'll put it all in the show notes. And thanks again, Ben, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the show. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The PR Podcast, and send us a question or a comment. Our intro is by Christopher Appold. You can find him and his fantastic photography on Instagram at Christopher_APPOLDT. Check him out there and hire him for all your photography needs. You can find me online at Jody Fisher on all the socials and on the web at jodyfisherpr.com. We'll see you next time on the PR Podcast.